Gentlemen, basically just want to spend about 20 minutes, hopefully not too long, but those that know me know I can talk about soil till it gets dark and pubs are closed. But the whole point of the knife aerator and the chain harrow is what we are trying to do is, if we've got healthy soil, we've got a healthy crop, we're heading towards a healthy profit. It's very simple mantra that I nicked off Rodale when I went there earlier this year, but that's what we're talking about today. Now, if we haven't got air in the soil, microbes can't breathe, nutrient exchange from the soil to the plant can't take place. So the most crucial thing about a simple, proper old school, non-sexy bit of kit like a chain harrow or a knife aerator is getting your timing right. And Neil had a lovely expression earlier that I thought was blinding, so I want to nick that. So basically, don't let perfection get in the way of a good decision. So even though I can talk about the perfect timing to do something, sometimes you go, do you know what, up to my neck in muck and bullets, I'm lambing, I've got domestic duty, I've got life gets in the way. So sometimes we just can't do everything. But if we know when we should do it, and more importantly, why, we've got a chance of making profit. And that's the whole point of what we're trying to do. So Mark 1 shovel, we'll look at that out in the field, because this will tell you when you should be using a knife aerator and when you shouldn't. Right, so we'll talk about that a bit later. This is, you probably won't be able to see it from there, but this is a schematic that I made a few years ago that basically, from my perspective, because proper soil science, not what someone wants to sell you something, is basically what I do. So if we find out what's in the soil, what's happening. When we know what we've been given, because it's damn difficult to change what we've been given, you can then get the right grass in the right place for your objectives. Not what someone wants to sell you, but the right grass. We then allow that to do what it needs to do. Put the beasts out at the right time, all things being equal, because we can't control the weather. But that's the most important aspect of all of this, is if we're controlling, I think the current phrase is the controllables, in other words, the things that are in our command, all we've got to worry about is the weather. And when you're 220 meters above sea level like we are here, I think the weather plays a big part in absolutely everything we do. So, but that's how it is. So I'll leave that there for you to look at. Right, so let's just think about soil, what it needs to survive. We're always concentrating on the green bit because that's what our stock eats. But how nutritious is it? Well, your stock won't be massively nutritious if your soil isn't working properly. So hopefully you can see these. So it's proportionate and to scale. So we need to understand what our soil is, right? So not necessarily the pKmg pH, which we have to do by law every 5 years, but that's only actually ever been designed to sell fertilizer, but we still have to do it. But actually, what is your sand, silt and clay fraction in the soil? Because they govern how productive your soil could or couldn't be. We can't change it, but if we know about it, know how good we could get it and how good it is, we can then start to move it forward and get it working for you. Because if you've got a lot of sand, well, you can't change it. But if we can get more organic matter in the soil that everybody keeps banging on about, fairly spookily, on a dry, sandy soil, we want to retain water. So every gram of organic matter that's in the soil will hold 0.8 of a gram of moisture. So put that another way, if you've got 1% organic matter, 85,000 litres of water can be held in that soil. So if we haven't got moisture in the soil, the nutrient exchange process between the soil and the plant and the green bit we want can't take place. So the more that we can understand what we're trying to achieve, but why, better chance we've got of making money. So silt and clay, minuscule, fall through the soil very easily. So if you overwork your soil, that bit comes to the top, your sand, those two just disappear out of sight and don't come back. The clay and silt have a negative charge, so they will hold on to the cations in the soil. So cation is basically all the nutrients that we want, apart from phosphate. So copper, manganese, magnesium, they're all positively charged. So as a fundamental principle, the more silt and clay that you have in the soil, the better your soil has the potential to work. Getting that to happen is a whole nother world of pain. But if you don't actually know what you've got in the soil, you don't know how good could be. Because the whole point of what I'm trying to do and working with a FIPL group and everything else is, the more you guys know about how your soil works, the more control you can take of decision making, when, where, how, and how you spend your money. So we'll get off that bit fairly quickly. This is the bit, this is where the knife aerator comes in and makes such a huge difference. Because if we were playing Mr. or Mrs. God for a day, this is basically the ideal soil. So this orange bit is 45%. That's your mineral content. Sand, silt and clay fraction. We can't change it, but we must be able to understand it and think about the implications for either the soil up here. It's probably got a very high magnesium content, so it'll collapse readily because magnesium expands and contracts readily. It's probably a low pH, almost definitely come from peatland in the past. So like nearly everybody's soil, it's a hell of a challenge. These two bits are the most important because we need the plant to be able to communicate with the microbes in the soil to extract the nutrients. So basically what happens, a root grows through the soil, slime trail on the outside, exudate, feeds the microbes. There's a pheromone signature the plant produces at certain times of the year that says to the microbes, can you go and get me, let's say, magnesium. It's then released from the soil, goes into the plant by osmosis. Massive oversimplification. But that process can't take place without either air or water in the soil. Because if there's not air in the soil, the microbes are drowned, so is productivity therefore. And if there's not water in the soil, the nutrients can't move from the soil into the plant. So enabling that to happen around these parameters is really, really important. Does that make sense, folks? Hopefully I've explained that as trying to be quick and simple. So this is where the knife aerator comes in. This bit at the bottom. An inch of rain in old money, a hectare, 280 tonnes. 280 tonnes per hectare. Well, we never get 25 mil of rain a year, do we? And up here you probably get a fair old kelting, I would imagine, Neil. You think of the pressure that's putting on the soil. Fairly obviously, yeah, okay. Well, the impact of that is too much of this, not enough of that. Too much water, not enough air. So your microbes, your productivity is just stalled. It just can't happen. That's the whole point of the knife aerator, because you're making a little slit, semicircular slit in the soil, and if you haven't seen one before, we'll go and look at it, that allows water to evaporate, warm air to get into the soil. The microbes just go absolutely ballistic because they've been enabled to access air and less water, not grammatically correct, than they would have done normally. Therefore, the plant starts communicating. Therefore, fairly spookily, you get more green bit with more nutrition in, which is basically what we're trying to achieve. The big advantage of a knife aerator, and when I was about that big, we only had a knife aerator and a harrow on the farm, and 0.2424 came in and we thought it's the best thing since sliced bread. Actually, it wasn't. The two things that are in your control, knife aerator and harrowing, will increase your profit more than anything else you'll ever do. So the knife aerator, because the knives are offset, they make a semicircular slot in the soil. Then there's another one there, another one there. So they never damage your soil to the extent that it won't recover. Whereas if you think of grassland sward lifters, I mean, apart from the fact you nearly always kill your soil, but that's a whole nother story. You've created a slot in the soil, you've fractured everything underneath, your worms and microbes are all dying because they've been exposed to too much air, and often it peels back. So if you're ever thinking of using a sward lifter or someone tells you to, just give us a ring and we'll assess what we're doing, why we're doing it, and do you need it. It's not often, to be honest, that you do. Knife aerator every year. Does that make sense, folks? So the other thing just to think about is knife aerating and harrowing. They're very rarely the same time, because we need enough moisture in the soil to be able to get the knife aerator in without having to have tons of weight. And it's rarely the same time to harrow. Sometimes you go, that's as good as it's going to get, so it's going to have it. But from the soil's perspective, in the spring, knife aerating's first, harrowing's afterwards. Please don't forget, if you can, knife aerate and harrow in the autumn as well. Because the stronger you can get your plant in the autumn by allowing this to work, fairly spookily, the stronger it will be during the winter, so it comes out of the winter in better health. And what you'll find is the more that you're able to knife aerate, harrow, knife aerate, keep that going, your productivity will increase exponentially, and you haven't put anything on out of a bag. If we need to put something on out of a bag, I'm not completely averse to it, but as a routine, we just really shouldn't without doing the other two. Sometimes we're just looking at the crop and going, you've got to have some help. That's fine. Same as ploughing. I'm totally averse to ploughing because it just kills soil. But there are times when you go, do you know what? That's the tool I need for this purpose. But it's the recreational ploughing that we, as an industry, been doing for donkey's years that kills all of this lot. Does that make sense, folks? Brilliant. Right, so I've got one last slide just to look at. So my other mantra, and I still read it in one of my father's books from, I think it's about 1885, and I can't find it, which is so annoying, is roots are cheaper than metal. So if you think what we're trying to do is create this ideal in the soil, well, if we can get plants to do that for us, fairly spookily, we've got more time to do other things. We've got healthy animals because they've got plenty of grub. We're not burning diesel. We're not, all of those things, we're just saving time and money because farmers are always short of time and money. Well, the more that we don't have to do something means we can go and do other things. So we're trying to create this in the soil. Here's my other bête noire. Perennial ryegrass. Yeah, horrible stuff. Sorry, it is, because I'm afraid the only people who make money from ryegrass are the people that are selling it, but we'll get off that one. Now, so we're thinking about the soil. We want to try and generate 25% air, 25% water. The main reason I don't like ryegrass is that there is always a fitness penalty. Anything that is highly productive, which you know ryegrass is, that's what it's sold on, has to have a drawback. Can't withstand drought, too shallow rooted, hates having wet feet, too shallow rooted, and after 3 years everyone will tell you, oh, by the way, it's burnt out, you've got to do it again. Oh, why are we doing that? It's just because we've been lulled into all of that. So these ones, great fan of, and I'm so pleased to be involved in the Fipple projects with Coxfoot, because if we've got deep rooted plants, they generate that ideal in the soil for us, of 25% air and water. Right? If you think how shallow rooted ryegrass is, it doesn't interact with enough of the soil, so therefore the soil isn't working properly. It's bred, designed, evolved for the last 50 years to bang loads of nitrogen on. It's spooky, that. I wonder why the nitrogen industry likes ryegrass. You know, just these. So perennial ryegrass, Timothy, Coxfoot, meadow fescue. Right. Meadow fescue, your soil, most of that out there is meadow fescue because it's the only thing that will survive in acidic soil. Meadow fescue goes down 3/4 metre. Well, that's going to structure soil for you. Happy days. Timothy, anyone who's got horses, Timothy's phenomenal. It's also extremely good because it starts growing earlier in the spring than anything else. Doesn't like the summer very much and then starts growing later. So extending your grazing period with Timothy, that works for me. And this, of course, is the holy grail. I've got a field of Coxfoot that I look after, or inherited, got to look after. It was put in 1953. Right? The only thing we've done to it since I took over is get rid of the docks, thistles and nettles, because thankfully we've got modern technology that can help us do that, because you won't get a crop without it. That field fattens lambs faster than anything else, recovers faster than anything else when they've come off. they can go back in faster without any nitrogen. Say again, without any nitrogen. And you think, why aren't we buying that? And that's why I just love the Fipple project. It's just, yeah, because it doesn't make anybody else any money other than you guys. You never need to replace it. All things being equal, you never need to replace it. So if we think about our ryegrass, everyone will tell you 3 years, yep, oh, it's dead, mate, here you are, have another bag, ka-ching. And if you're spending, where are we, in old money, 14 kilos an acre, 4 to 24, about 85 pounds an acre in old money, why are we doing it again after 3 years? But I'll leave that thought with you. This is the most important bit. If we look at the nutritional content, perennial ryegrass, 12% protein, happy days. Cocksfoot, 12% protein. Well, that's spooky, isn't it? But you don't need to do anything to cocksfoot because it just loves life once it's established. It doesn't care about weather. If it's dry, it'll sit there. If it's got wet, it just copes. This is from the, I can't remember where it's from now, sorry, Nutrient Elements in Grassland, published in 2000, so it's not just what I say. We'll come back to manganese in a minute. I bet all your beasts are given copper. Almost guarantee it, really, in most cases anyway, because we know it helps with fecundity, conception, all sorts of growth patterns. Look how much copper is in cocksfoot. You've done nothing to it. You just get that for free. Zinc is crucial for renal system, all those sort of functions. Nearly every soil that I work in is short of manganese. Manganese is the most not utilised. The importance of manganese is massively under-recognised. For those people that grow arable crops, if you went back to the 80s, probably none of you remember that far back, I'm sure, but the only seed dressing we had was manganese. Everything had manganese on because it helps with protein synthesis, growth, regeneration, repair. Well, if we're getting more from the grass, the beasts are getting it. So just think about these, but more importantly, the rooting depth in line with what we're actually trying to achieve from a soils perspective for it to work. Oops, sorry, upside down, to get this 25% air, 25% water. So if we've got the right grass in the right place, we've got a knife aerator and a set of harrows, and we understand the best time to use it. And this is the other thing about knife aerator and harrows. They're in your control when you do it. I'm going to rely on anybody else. They're not ridiculously expensive. Everything's proportionate, but they're not. They'll last, well, Christ, it's the only things that were on the farms when I was younger. Most people wore them out, but very rarely happens because they're not sexy. Someone can't make oh, look, this is the new, bigger, better, sexier. Well, actually, it's because they work, because they help this happen. And as I say, understand your soils. Remember that we want 25% air and water. Get on the field at the right time, and I'll show you how to do that with a Mark 1 shovel. Then we're getting closer to a healthy soil, healthy crop, healthy profit. Is that all right, ladies and gentlemen? Yep, I'll try not to say too much more, but any questions? Fantastic. Don't know is that good, but fantastic if everyone's happy. But that's I wanted to just give you the background so that I'm much happier going out digging holes, trust me. But we'll go and have a look at some of the two fields that Neil's got, because one is clay based predominantly and one is sand based predominantly. Well, the clay based field we can get in, get on. Knife aerating now would be absolutely perfect. But we need to have a look at the sand. Oh, this is the other thing as well. Where's my trusty tool gone? This is the other thing that we need, folks. So 3 things you need. This bit working. See what that's telling you. But more importantly, what's this actually telling you? It's just a soil thermometer. Because if we don't know what the temperature is in the soil, so for instance, we've gone out and assessed knife aeration. Yep, we can go now. But if your soil's too cold, the microbes won't be active. So basically we want the soil to be above 8 degrees C. 8, 9, 10 is even better, but definitely above 8 degrees C. So I've been I just walk around with all of this all the time. Anybody know what the soil temperature is at the moment, other than those I spoke to earlier to tell?
15.
It's actually nearly 17, but it was 15, but hey, splitting hairs. But the point is, quite a lot of these things where, what's the word? We geared up, can't think of a better expression really, to look at calendar date and think, oh, I should be. I was just talking to Fraser about it earlier. I should be doing something. We're shocking at sitting on our hands as an industry. I think I really should be doing something, and go, oh God, why did I bother? Because it doesn't look right, or you got stuck, all those things. We can't stop ourselves. But if we thought, do you know what, I reckon we're going to be knife aerating soon, get that out, get that out. If that isn't right and that isn't right, go and have a cup of tea. Because we'll actually do more damage by doing what we think is the right thing at the wrong time than doing it at the right time. But to have soils this warm at this time of year is stunning, and it's why grass is going, happy days, just romping away, nearly too much, possibly making a stock scour because it's just going too quickly, but it's better that way than not have anything. But a couple of 3 tools, as I say, this bit's the most important bit, which is where just explaining a little bit of the background of how soil wants to work, us trying to work with it as best we can and make a profit. Is that all right, ladies and gentlemen? Right, shall I hand back to you, Neil, and then we'll go and look at some tractors and... Oh, sorry.
Who's actually got a knife aerator on farm?
Very good point. Oh, God, I just love you all. Fantastic.
So I've got half then. Is that...
Staggeringly rare. I mean, it's brilliant, but staggeringly rare. Yeah.
Hi, you all.
Good call, Mark. Well done. Yeah. Yeah. But honestly, when I say, I keep going back to when I was a lad, because it's a hell of a long time ago, that's all we had. And the people that worked for my father, they were all, bless them, just about survived the First World War. They never plant anything unless the moon phase was right. They knew what the soil temperature was without a thermometer. I never quite worked out, but I always thought they'd taken the mickey, but they put the finger in the soil and tell you anything. Yeah, but anyway, daft, not completely stupid. But their rationale for doing things was probably a lot sharper, a lot more instinctive than we've been encouraged to be now, because someone always wants to sell you something. But the things that are in your control make a huge difference to your profit. And that's what we're trying to do. If you guys aren't making a profit, we shouldn't be doing it. I know it's a marginal call, but that's what we're trying to do between us.
Okay, shall we go and...
Let's go and make some